everyone, Stephan here. I hope you're doing well. So last week we talked about AI, or I talked about AI and some weird creations. This week I thought, let's bring it back to reality. Well, kind of. Still manipulated, but in a super artistic way. And in the past I've also had the pleasure to have conversations with some good old friends. They're not all old, but they're old friends. And that's what we're doing today. And it is my absolute pleasure to talk to someone who I really look up to. First, as a musician, as a former singer myself, I have huge respect for other people who play instruments, and man, this guy is good. And then he's also a friend and photographer. So, Jaime,
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good, sir. How are you? It's been a minute, eh?
It's been a minute. Before we record this, I wanted to see how long we actually know each other. And so I went onto Facebook Messengers and thought, I'll scroll back. These buggers stop at, I think, 2004 or something like that. And I know we talked long before.
You go very far back in my memory. It's so far back, I can't think of when or how you and I met. But I always regard you fondly, sir, even though I have no tooth right now.
Well, having no tooth might even add to your creative persona.
It entoughens me a little bit, if I can invent a word. To entoughen is to make one tougher, and it does entoughen me a little. And
how did it happen? What happened?
I got into another fight. This is a problem of mine because I get in a lot of fights. No, it was not a fight. It's a medical thing. I have MS and I'm on a treatment for it. And the problem is the treatment makes you lose your teeth and your hair. You can say bye-bye to most all of your teeth if you're on this treatment. So it's a choice of, well, I could walk, or I could have teeth. And sadly, you have to make that choice. And I really like being able to walk.
Yeah. I got to know you as a really mobile person that is out there taking those incredible photos, which we will talk about. And at the same time, of course, playing your guitar on the level that you do, it's a very mechanical thing. You really have to have control of your limbs. And then MS started to kick in, and that of course takes all of those mechanics away from you, and you were suffering a long time until you told me that you're looking into this new treatment, which you then started, and then out of nowhere I get this message like, holy shit, I can play the guitar again.
I think so many people that I tell, when I tell them I have MS, which again is multiple sclerosis, but from henceforth all I shall refer to it as MS. But when I tell people I have MS, I think a lot of them don't really know what that is. So, but they just to be nice to go, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is, but I'm sorry. Well, you know what? I didn't know what it was either. When the neurologist walked into my hospital room with the diagnosis after they'd been testing me for a week, when they finally got to the bottom of it, he walked in to tell me, you've been diagnosed with, we're diagnosing you with multiple sclerosis. And I didn't know what it was. And I was confusing it with like muscular dystrophy, there's a telethon that goes on once a year here in this country, hosted by Jerry Lewis, and everybody's familiar with what Jerry's kids are. So Jerry's kids are children that have muscular dystrophy. Then I chose to make the poor joke to the neurologist. So does that mean I'm one of Jerry's kids now? He goes, no, that's muscular dystrophy. And it turns out no one laughed other than my friend who was there with me in the hospital room, and I shouldn't have joked about that, but that's my standard default coping mechanism, is to insert comedy and humor into stuff. I had been having symptoms from the MS for years and years, like probably for about a decade prior to being diagnosed, which was in it was October of 2017 is when I got diagnosed. And it takes away your motor functions, like you said. And my girlfriend at the time would joke and say that you walk like a drunken toddler. But it's true. I did kind of walk like a drunken toddler, but that's because of the MS. And I've been thought to be drunk many times, but I'm not. I just have MS. Matter of fact, the Facebook group, the MS support group that I'm part of is called "We're Not Drunk. We just have MS," which that's funny. So I can laugh at that, but that's what we all run into. Is everyone at one point thinks that people with MS are drunk, even if we're not. I've been thankfully able to continue playing music, and I can still pick up the camera. How many times when you're doing a shoot do you get up? Like, do you kneel down, like squat down and get back up and down and back up again? How many times do you do that? I know it's a open-ended question, but you do it a lot when you're doing a shoot. I didn't used to think about that, but now that I can't do that, yeah, I think about it a lot, because how nice it would be to be able to do that, because I can't do that anymore. But I found other ways. I find new ways to do things every time I do it, and most of the time, like, I'm shooting photos of people that they've known me for a very long time. And they're used to things that I've got to do, and they help me however they can, and it's been wonderful. So now I'm still able to shoot, and I'm still playing music.
Here's the thing, which I think a lot of people don't understand. You can play the piano, you can play the guitar, you can play the violin mediocre without limitations too much. As soon as you get to a certain level, the tiniest little details make a huge difference. And in your case, playing the guitar like you play, it needs those super fine, quick adjustments. And if they're hindered, you going down, you stepping down a level from the quality that you know from yourself. And that, I know that from myself, getting older, my voice is not as it was 15 years ago. It annoys the living daylight out of me that certain things I can't control as much as I could 15 years ago. Yeah. Music is such a big part of both of our lives. And if someone would take that away from me, I don't know. I don't know either. What's the theory of you've got to do something X amount of, like, however many thousands of times? You have to do that thing that many thousands of times in order to become good enough at it. There's some belief about, do you know what I'm talking about? 10,000 hours to mastery. What they forget, you need 10,000 hours to mastery, and then you can start to create properly. Because what people think, 10,000 hours and I'll be the guru. No, now you know everything so that you can create your own. Now you're at that point where you know all the rules, and now you have the knowledge and the capabilities to break them all, but on your terms. So the 10,000 hours for me is the basic, is the entry. Now the door is open. What you now do inside is up to you.
Yeah.
Without the 10,000 hours, you walk into this room and it's just a black hole and you don't know what to do. Now you brought the light with you, but now it's up to you.
Exactly.
And I think that applies to photography, that applies to any kind of art, and your music as well. So, by the way, for anyone that is watching this, I know there's some crazy people out there who actually watch these sort of things. The music that you hear in the background is all from Jaime. But let's talk about photography quickly, because I still remember the first time I saw your images. I was impressed because there's a certain warmth to it. There's a certain color palette. We both love taking a picture and putting our own spin on it. Not to create any fakes, but still put them into a wonderland. Working with textures, which a lot of people do, they just slap some stuff on it. But you kept the integrity of the person, the power of the woman intact. You took it out of the realm of just a photograph and sort of framed it, put it onto a wall as an art piece.
I love your take on things. It's refreshing. Never is it enough for you to go, well, she's pretty. If that's all you can say about a photo is, oh, she's pretty. Like, yes, she is. That's why I wanted to photograph her. Of course she's pretty. But beyond that, there's usually more, I think. But you always see the more. You always see that. And I wish everyone was more like you in that regard. So thank you for seeing more. Is much appreciated, because I put a lot of care into the extra things that a lot of people don't talk about or see. Maybe they do see it, but they don't talk about it. I don't know. I have no idea.
I think what we both have in common, that's one of the few things that we have in common, is that we want to elevate that person that we photograph. And there's a certain strength to women in general, and we want to preserve that in the photograph. But then there's also playfulness, there's quirkiness, there's sex appeal, there's allure, and all these sort of things. So once you capture that, how do you now still put your own spin on it? And that's what I see in your photos, because if it's just the girl, then it's just the girl. Where's the photographer? Well, it comes from lighting and angle. But you then push it that one step further, so that if I see a photo anywhere on the interwebs, I instantly know it's one of yours. So what's the secret?
I think for me, the number one thing that matters the most is not the camera, and it's not the lens, it's not any gear, it's not any equipment. It's my mission when I'm shooting with somebody is if there's not already I'm going to use the word I never use, but a palpable connection between me and whoever I'm shooting, I need to make sure that one gets created. Unless, if I don't have that connection, the shots are going to be not good. They're not good enough by my standards of what I'm looking for. And so, like one time I got to shoot one of my musical hero people, and I was given 30 minutes to shoot with her because her band was in town playing at Antone's downtown here in Austin, and I had just done an online class with the road manager of. Her name is Lissy, just Lissy, like just Cher, or just one name, but Lissy. But I did a class with her road manager, and I was like, that's cool. I'm just one step away from Lissiness now. So I asked him. I said, can you put me in front of her with my camera just for a while? He's like, yeah, I can do that. And he said he would contact me next time they were in town. And months later, one day he called me and said, yeah, we'll be at Antone's and be down there at 5 and sound check and come on down. And I had 30 minutes, but rather than okay, hi, I'm Jaime, it's nice to meet you. Let's run. We only have 30 minutes. Let's shoot. I spent about 20, maybe 21, 22 minutes of my allotted 30 without my camera. I didn't take the camera out of the bag. We didn't even talk about photography. I just wanted to stand there and figure out how to make her laugh and just learn her reactions. It's kind of a low budget psychological profiling, I guess. Not that I'm not a psychologist, of course, but I want to find out as much as I can. I want to create that connection. And luckily, she and I got along really, really well. But when we had about I think it was like 8 remaining minutes, and she's like, "Did you want to take some pictures?" I'm like, "Yeah, we should do that." And we just walked over, and it was so easy. It was so easy because that connection was there. Like to me, like if that connection is there, then the photos just take themselves, you know. And what I'm looking for is that moment of just pure elation. I just want these joyful moments. I want these really content, silent moments. Like, I'm content to be silent in your presence. That, to me, that means a lot. When you're comfortable being silent with somebody, that's comfortable. You know, there's not that many. Think about that. How many people in your life are you okay just to be in a room and shh, don't say anything. How many people? Not very many, probably. I'm guessing, unless your life is drastically different than mine.
This is something that a lot of people don't understand that walk into my studio. If it's a big production, then you usually have hair, makeup, you have all that sort of stuff. So they come in,
wardrobe.
They sit down, all that beautiful stuff, and there's a time allocated for it. So makeup and hair might be an hour, 1.5. That is a good amount of time to have a chat. And then afterwards you can pretty much go into the shoot, but you already created a sort of a rapport. You already created a good connection. You found out what kind of weird humor they're reacting to.
Yes.
So, but if you don't have that, which I often have when I'm working with, getting booked by amateur models, local models that want to get into the industry or private people, and they come in already done their makeup, they come in with hair, they walk in and assume that we're starting straight away. So now I don't have that hour, 1.5 of buffer. And for me, it's the same thing. I then sit down with them and say, hey, what did you bring with you? You brought the whole wardrobe. All right, how about you lay that stuff out? I'm just buying myself time rather than just opening the bag, taking one dress out, let's shoot. I ask them, so no, just lay them out so we can pick, take your time. I buy myself time to have a conversation. And I want, before I push that button for the first time, have a rough idea of who is that person and do we gel on some levels, and then hone in on that. Because that changes everything. It also is, for me, it's actually, this might actually be helpful for beginning photographer. For me, it's also a safety blanket, because now I know or have a feeling of what comments from my side might actually upset them or push them. Because as a photographer, I always want more. And you always want more. We want more expression, more happiness, more honesty, more sex appeal, more this. Give me more. At some point, you scare somebody. If someone is not experienced in front of the camera, they go like, "Holy shit! What do you want from me? Like, I already have a boyfriend. Go away."
It can get intense sometimes, but I like that very, 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 very much. I like real. And there's not a lot of people smiling in my work when you see photos that I've done, but there's a lot of smiling that happens while we're shooting, man. I mean, I have a lot of fun. It's usually a shoot with me is like a big comedy thing. It's usually very funny, but you won't see them smiling in the photos. Stop it. Just hide your joy. It's that silent comfortability thing again. I just love that so much.
You also have to mention Photoshop quickly, because you are damn bloody good at Photoshop.
I love Photoshop. It's like that's the closest I think that I come to achieving some type of zen is when I'm Photoshopping. It's usually, unless I'm working on something I'd rather not be working on in Photoshop, which I'm usually just working on stuff I love to look at. So the whole Photoshop experience is very joyful for me. and I have custom playlists in my Spotify for that purpose, and they're all. I have everything's. Did you know that I have synesthesia? So I hear color in a odd way. So when one color touches another color, now like if you have green and blue, neither of those, I don't hear either of those. But what I do hear is when they come into contact with each other, then that union of this hue plus this hue, that creates a tonal value. So I hear basically a note. It doesn't sound like a piano or a saxophone. It's just a tone, But every color touching another color is another tone. So when I'm editing, I'm trying to create in the photo. I'm trying to create these color contrasts that produce a triad. Like I'm basically forming a chord. Mm. You're a piano man, so you know full well. Because if you walk over to the piano and this, you could play any key. So that would be that's basically okay. That's what happens when these two colors touch each other. Well, but if you play three keys, now you're playing a chord, and there's no guarantee that those three notes are going to work well together. And you got to have there's certain notes that belong in a chord, and that's what I'm trying to do when I'm editing, is make it sound pleasant. And the zen of doing that is I can't even describe how wonderful it is. I love doing that, but I don't usually experience any of that until I'm in Photoshop. I don't when I'm taking the photos, it's not very often I encounter it. Because it has to be pretty filling in my periphery. Like it needs to be nothing but that color. This color meets that color. It needs to be filling all of my is periphery a word? But you know what I mean when I say that?
Totally. It makes perfect sense looking at your photos when you say it like that, because once you create a certain harmony, if I go from a C to a B as a bass note, everything else changes, and it changes the mood. So if that is the way you apply your, I would say, color science or color matching, and you create those harmonies that work for you, that's what then puts that image onto a different level. Maybe that's where photography becomes art.
I think that is an accurate way to put it. Yes. So I mean, like, just to get sort of music geeky for a second.
I went there.
No. I like being in this place. But what I'm trying to do is sort of the color equivalent of adding a flat 9 to that chord.
All right.
Flat nine is for those that are not musical people. How do we describe a flat 9? It works. It rightly shouldn't, but it does. It does work, and it really drives home the mood. Largely, my photos
it creates that extra suspense. Because sometimes you want to say something and sometimes you want to ask a question. And a question is usually having a 9 in there or a 7 in there. Anyway, people go and watch Music Theory. Oh, now there comes the guitar. I knew it.
the longest you've ever spent composing something?
I'm usually relatively quick. The bass idea usually takes me a day, or maybe sometimes just 2 or 3 hours. But my issue is that I criticize myself a lot. So I put it away, and then 3 months later I look at it and go, oh, this is crap, or this part is nice but this part is crap, and then I start to fiddle with it, and then I put it away again, and then I've composed like an entire musical, right? 1.5 hours, 2 hours of music, and it was performed on stage and everything. And then I'll look back at it and go like, I need to change this number, and I need to change this number, and this number is shit orchestrated, and this number actually, and this is cheap. This was cheap, and before you know it, I pretty much feel like I have to do the whole thing again. And the interesting part about this is that not one person in that auditorium watching the show thought any of that. But I'm sitting in the back going, this is crap. What was I thinking?
I think that when someone's at the level that you're at, you're going to be more prone to be like abnormally, like the level of severity of your self-critiquing is going to be sky high compared to most people. Because you care about doing the very, very, very best you can. At least that's the way it is with me. So I'm real good at beating myself up. And I was just saying to someone the other day, I was playing some of the music from my solo project that I'm working on, and she asked me, she goes, how do you know when you're done with a song? I was like, that's the problem. That's my biggest problem. I don't think I ever am done, ever, because you can just keep adding, you can keep doing stuff. So when do you put the brakes on? So how do you, Stephan, how do you deal with that?
I have to limit myself so that I cannot go back. At some point I had to put a nail in it, and I do so by analog. I'm back to a lot of analog gear where I have to make a decision and then it's burned in. So if let's say for the non-musos, just to be a little bit educational for a second. So let's say you record a microphone into your computer. Well, if you record it pure in, you can now fiddle around with it as long as you want. Or you can make a decision to say, between my microphone and my recording, I put an analog gear, a compressor, an EQ, whatever it is, something that changes that tone. Once you put your microphone into that thing and from there out, that is burned in. You cannot change it. It's like in photography, shooting JPEG versus RAW. If you shoot a JPEG, that source is baked in.
It's burned in there, yep.
And so I now started to force myself again to use some analog gear, like in the olden days, to kind of release myself of the stress of deciding later. I decide in the moment, and it comes from the stomach, and a little bit from the ears, and a little bit mostly from the stomach. What feels good in that moment, and I burn it in. That's how I limit myself. Anyway, I think we are closing this baby down. It's been my pleasure to talk to you and show a little bit of your art and share my admiration for your art with everybody else. I will crank up the music a little bit in the background and go and look into what this guy is doing, not just now, but in a couple of weeks from now, as he has promised that something will be there, but also in half a year from now and in a year from now. And maybe this is just an idea. Maybe check up on some people once in a while, because you just don't know what they're going through, and maybe they need to hear that they are looking sexy without a tooth. Who knows?
I love hearing that. So keep it coming.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it coming. On that note, let's shut this baby down. And to all of you who are still watching, I say the same thing every week. If you don't give me the thumbs up, hey, it's free. What are you still doing here? And until next week, go out and create something awesome.